What's good, y'all? I'm Jerry, about to check out 10 great wrestling matches on a terrible pay-per-view. This video by Parts Unknown. I feel like that's every pay-per-view for over the past 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years maybe. Because it's always going to be that one or two matches out of the whole card. There's going to be some of the best matches on the pay-per-view, man. I feel like that's every single pay-per-view. But I'm excited to see what this list is going to be. We're on the road to 2K subscribers, so let's hop into it.
You know what, if you're going to make a bad wrestling show, and as far as I know there have been a few bad wrestling shows over the years, could you do us all a favour and at least make the entire show
Put Crown Jewel,
Save our brains the time and effort by stinking up the rest of it, then we can forget the whole thing and it's not taking up real estate.
Great Balls of Fire?
I can only remember 5 things at any given time, so if I have to remember that a certain wrestling show is the absolute pits apart from one amazing match, that just means I have to forget what my dad looks like. Shows like Great American Bash 2004, Crown Jewel 2018, great, wonderful, we can forget they ever happened and never think about them again. Unless you're a wrestling list writer, of course, and you're not allowed to forget anything. I hate my life. But all the shows on this list, honestly, bollocks to you for having a soul-redeeming feature that we might want to go back and rewatch, sifting through the rest of the show like a prospector hunting for gold amongst the turds. I'm Adam, hailing from Parts Unknown, and here are 10 great matches from terrible pay-per-views. But if you'd like to enjoy something that's all killer,
who we got number 10?
Then why don't you subscribe to Parts Unknown for more silly wrestling content just like this. Number 10, Eddie Guerrero vs. Six, sold out 1997.
I don't know about WCW
sold
at
out
all.
1997. The first major sign of this whole New World Order thing was going to get a bit much. The red flags were all there. We didn't listen. This show sucks so hard. But weirdly, it was sort of supposed to. See, the gimmick of the show was it was produced by the NWO, not WCW, as a 3-hour-long f*** you to the company. A 3-hour-long f*** you that the fans had to pay for and watch, which is honestly as late 90s WCW as you can get. The show was a weird, ugly mess of WCW stars coming in, being called names, and fighting an NWO member before getting screwed. And of course the whole show began with the NWO riding to the venue on garbage trucks and ended with a main event DQ. Talk about a show that knows what it is. Screw you then, Eddie Guerrero and
I did not know nothing about this.
For having an amazing ladder match for the Cruiserweight title right in the heart of the slog. It may not be the best ladder match ever, but on this show, this stanky ass show, it's the best ladder match ever. Crisp, fast, hard-hitting,
Latino Heat.
Fun. Number 9, Seth Rollins vs. The Miz, Backlash 2018. Also,
I don't remember nothing from 2018, to be honest.
The traffic, but when you think about it, if everyone leaves early to beat the traffic, then nobody beats the traffic.
I barely remember any pay-per-view from 2018.
Blows. It's a show that should have been headlined.
These years go by so fast, I forget about a lot of stuff.
For this time doing it right, but they knew the finish of that match was so bad, and it was, by the way, that they thought they'd save face by putting Roman versus Joe in the main event with nothing on the line. Cue everyone saying, I'm a head out. The rest of the show is just so...
They should have been turned Roman heel.
Bland. Jax versus
I think
Bliss,
timing is everything, but...
Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass, anyone?
Roman...
Anyone?
They forced him as a babyface.
It would be so easy to forget this show entirely if it wasn't for Seth Rollins and The Miz. Those assholes who had one of the best title matches of the year in the opener. 20 minutes of strong workhorse storytelling escalating perfectly to a blistering finish. Heartbreaking that the show peaked in the very first match, but if you think about it, if you left after that match, you really could have beaten the traffic. Number 8, the Usos match, Battleground 2014 and Battleground 2017.
Damn.
God bless the Usos, or in case of this list, I guess screw you, the Usos, who could be credited for saving not 1, but 2 Battlegrounds, a pay-per-view format so routinely terrible it took 4 years for WWE to actually produce a good one. Battleground 2014 was a total non-entity of a show, existing purely to spin wheels between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. And then there's the Usos versus the Wyatts, 2 out of 3 falls, casually one of the best tag matches of the year. Miss you all the time, Mr. Brody Lee. But that nothing show pales in comparison to Battleground 2017, which is so bad. It has a 27-minute long Punjabi prison match as its main event.
Oh yeah, I didn't see this match.
So bad, they haven't done a Battleground since. That was 5 years ago.
I didn't see this match.
Usos versus the New Day casually having one of the best tag matches of the year in the best tag team feud of the year. Honestly, Usos, stop it. Stop making us remember Battleground. Number 7, the Brothers Rhodes versus the Shield, Battleground 2013.
I think I remember this.
Battleground.
Yeah, I remember that match.
Off. The first iteration of the pay-per-view is one of the worst. You might remember it from my most hated matches of all time list. Hey, go and watch that if you haven't already. The list, I mean, not Battleground. That shows a D's nuts lasagna of insulting, booking, boring matches and Ryback. Curtis Axel versus R-Truth on that show. Sweet baby lord. But for some reason, on this awful show, with potentially one of the worst main events WWE have ever produced, there's once again a tag match here to save the day. The Shield versus Cody Rhodes and Goldust with their sweet old dad in tow, with the Rhodes needing to win the match.
Dusty
their
Rhodes.
careers would be over. It rules so hard. A burst of undiluted, uncomplicated, feel-good wrestling emotion in a morass of overbooking and inconsequential matchups. The roar of the crowd when the Rhodes win is pure and thoroughly earned. It is a beauty. Thankfully, by this time next year, Cody Rhodes would have been repackaged as Stardust, because WWE like to fix things that aren't broken. When I say fix, I mean like you fix a dog.
They could have easily pushed Cody
versus the Undertaker
to the main event.
27,
at least the World Heavyweight Championship division
of all time, and considering there's 38 of them, that is saying something. The show that was main evented by Bam Bam Bigelow versus a football player, that WrestleMania is better than this one, because that WrestleMania didn't have its main event restarted by a laptop. Nothing on WrestleMania 27 stands out in a good way. Cole versus Lawler, no. Miz versus Cena, computer says no. Edge versus Del Rio, unremarkable. Sorry, that was your last pay-per-view match for ages, Edge. The Core had a match. Do you remember The Core?
Yeah,
do you remember The Core?
I do.
They had a WrestleMania match. Snooki had one. Stop it. There's only one good memory from WrestleMania.
That was a good match. That's my favorite match between Undertaker and Triple H.
Match. It's a Triple H Mania match, so it's too long, but it goes hard, with the King of Kings straight murdering the dead man in front of a whole lot of witnesses. And hey, that false finish when Trips gives Taker the tombstone, that is wonderful business. Really annoying that the match is so key to the end of an era build at Mania 28, because it forces us to remember the year before. I hate it, boo. Number 5, the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian, WrestleMania 2000. This WrestleMania is also a wet sneeze and a lift. In a year when WWE had potentially its greatest roster ever, for some reason, maybe to fulfill the whole 2000 branding, because everything had to be 2000 sized back then, and radical monger, the whole card is stuffed with multi-man matches that don't mean half a bollock, and an awful crowd-baiting horror show of a main event with the heels going over. There is one singles match on the card, and it's the women's stinkface match. Totally tubular. You could argue that the Euro-Continental triple threat match is good, but it's loads shorter than you remember. It's all done in 8 minutes. There's one spark of joy, just one on the whole show, but what a spark it is. The prelude to TLC, the triangle ladder match between Edge and Christian, the Hardys and the Dudleys, was an unbridled joy of car crash mayhem and the kind of tag stunt work that defined a generation. Like the DX band that opened the show, WrestleMania 2000 only hit one right note, but they hit it loud. Number 4, Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. And rounding off our terrible manias but for one match trilogy, WrestleMania 13. Undertaker versus Psycho Sid is potentially the quietest a crowd has ever been during a WrestleMania main event. If it had dropped, it would have deafened people in a 2-block radius. What else was on the card, you ask? Rocky Maivia versus a Sultan. A god-awful gang war street fight, the Headbangers winning the tag titles. Remember that? Triple H versus Goldust. Alright, and what else was on the card? Oh, that's right, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, the catalyst for Austin.
That was the best match on the night.
The best babyface of all time, what many people see as the unofficial birthplace of the Attitude Era and an instant 5-star classic. Genuinely, the match is so good that WrestleMania 13 sometimes appears on lists of greatest WrestleManias just because of this moment.
It does.
And that's an injustice, the likes of which I can't stand no more. Number 3, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, SummerSlam 1995.
I never heard of this match.
So, for most of the shows on this list, WWE didn't go into the pay-per-view thinking the entire thing was going to be a wank supper. Not the case of SummerSlam 95, which was a show so unutterably awful that they literally parachuted this rematch from WrestleMania 10 in at the last minute, because with their roster that year crippled by the steroid trial and WCW poaching their talent, they had nothing else. Literally, up until a week or two before the show, HBK was supposed to defend the title against Sid.
That would would have sucked.
Bullet there. Hakushi versus 123 Kid is on this card, this SummerSlam card, and it's one of the better matches. They've got Brett versus the f***ing dentist, and the less said about the main event, the better. Mr. Slow and Mr. Bad falling over each other like two drunks trying to help each other. Comfortably, one of the worst major shows WWE ever made, and one that should be forever consigned to history's dustbin were it not for the really annoyingly good ladder match between Shawn and Razor. In some ways, it's even better than the first one, and it's just there, making you watch bits of SummerSlam 1995. Speaking of HBK, number 2, Shawn Michaels vs. Mankind, In Your House Mind Games. The In Your House pay-per-views were mostly bad. Sweeping statement. They were created to compete with WCW's increased output of shows, and also to provide a shorter, cheaper alternative to the Big 4 pay-per-views. Some big matches to pop a buy rate, but otherwise save the good stuff for the top dollar shows, and it does make sense. But I do wish WWE hadn't made most of them. Terrible shows cram head to toe with filler and diesel. In Your House Mind Games is exactly that kind of show. Which of these matches thrills you? Savio Vega versus Bradshaw, Green as baby Mark Henry versus Jerry Lawler, Jose Lothario versus Jim Cornette. What? For real, the show sucks and could have gone down as the worst show of the year if not for the main event. Shawn Michaels versus Mankind, which goes like a freight train. The lads knock the piss out of each other, with Mankind taking horrendous punishment, as you'd expect, getting his neck caught in the ropes, both men flying through the announce table at ringside in an era where that was rare, and a jumping sweet chin music off a chair, through a chair. Michaels is fantastic as a scared babyface driven to extremes, and Mankind is kept strong in a DQ loss as an unstoppable, unput-downable madman. Plus it ends with a fab spooky spot from a teleporting Taker. Amazing match and a deeply crap show. And number 1, John Cena versus Seth Rollins versus
that match was good. I love that triple threat match right there.
WWE. This pay-per-view is a
I remember watching it,
even during the darkest times, where we could.
And I think that was the first match of the night.
The hashtag cancel WWE network trended worldwide, which is the kind of grassroots publicity you just can't buy. WWE also put on potentially the greatest triple threat match in the company's history. WWE. It's either amazing or terrible.
I think that match was first, if I can remember.
Cena, Rollins, and Lesnar put together a stormer. Cena is the resilient, uncomplicated good guy, always happy to walk into danger.
I could be wrong.
So simple. Rollins is a nippy coward, always content to feed his henchmen to the wolves, and Brock Lesnar as all the wolves in the world.
Beast.
Honestly, go back and watch it. It is even better than you remember. So many wonderful near falls, so many high spots. J&J Security eats so much. Lesnar is a legitimately scary slasher monster. Cena and Rollins having all-time great chemistry with each other. The joy of the Philly fans hating on Cena so very much while still being all in on the Suplex City shtick. It's blockbuster in all the best ways. The right guy wins, and the crowd are so happy after it. The fact that WWE can go from the buzz after a match of the year candidate to hashtag cancel WWE network in the space of just 1 hour goes to show how much people hate the 2015 Royal Rumble. And that's our list. Want to hear why people hate the 2015 Rumble so much? Check out my most hated matches list video right here on Parts of Unknown. Go on, give it a watch.
Alright y'all, great video, man. Let me know down below in the comments what y'all thought of my reaction to this video and the video in total. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.